From WBBZ-TV Sports, it's time to Beat the Champ. Now, here are your hosts, Paul Peck and Sue Novoitsky.
Well, hi, everybody, and welcome to a special edition of Beat the Champ. My name is Paul Peck with Hall of Fame bowler Sue Novoitsky, along with our scoreboard superstar, Janelle Saban. We're at Lucky Lanes in Fredonia, finishing off our month-long stay here in Chautauqua County. And as we always do in our fourth show, Sue, we have a little fun with it. And today, it is going to be a high school bowlers challenge.
Well, it's always nice to feature the young bowlers in the area. And in this case, they've come in and they're going to compete against each other in a step-ladder format. So there'll be a high qualifier, 4-0 bowl 3, 3-0 bowl 2, 2-0 bowl 1.
All right, and while that's going on, you are manning the Castellone scoreboard with some handicaps worked in.
Yes, so this is a handicap match. So in this match coming up, Brady will have a 13-pin advantage over Josh.
Okay, so we'll explain a little more about how that all works when we get going. But without delaying anymore, our final week here in Fredonia, the High School Bowlers Championship. So let's get rolling. Our first match of the day features Josh Ellman in the blue on the left versus Brady Pullman in the red. And it'll be Josh Ellman, who's from right here in Fredonia and bowls regularly out of Lucky Lanes. That will be our first bowler to start off our first match. And it is Jeff who is giving the 13 pins to Brady, Sue, by nature of their averages. So here we go with our high school bowling challenge at Lucky Lanes in Fredonia. And Josh Ellman gets us off to the start.
Now we got to remember that these lanes have been bowled on all day, so they're going to hook a little bit more. So these guys are going to have to, adjust accordingly as they go.
Well, then let's hope, and particularly in Josh's case, that he has a good coach to give him all those lane condition tips. And with that, we welcome in the head of the junior bowling program here at Lucky Lanes, along with the owner of Lucky Lanes. Sitting next to Sue is Greg Haas, and sitting next to me is our buddy Paul Nosek. And guys, thank you for being a part of a really fun, special fourth show here. And particularly for you, Greg, you're going to be able to provide us some insight into some of these bowlers because you're pretty familiar with most of them.
That's true. Thank you for having me, and I'm going to do the best I can to help you guys out here.
Yeah, well, we know that you will, and as we get our first look there at Brady Pullman, we'll get back to Josh in a moment because I know you know him pretty well. But
that's right.
For you, Paul, how important is an event like this to encourage the high school bowlers? And we talked in last week's show about how big the high school bowling is here at Lucky Lanes, but how important is this to get that generation to know this is a place they can come work on their game?
I think it's obviously very important, and it's the interest this generates is pretty amazing. I had a lot of people ask me after we did the show last year if we were going to do it again, just because it went over so well, and it showed because we had a bigger turnout this year than we did last year for the big kids.
And you see a nice spare pickup there by Brady Pullman in the first frame.
And you notice that Brady is a two-hander, which a lot of young people today are taking on as they watch, like Jason Belmonte rise to the top in the PBA. And
I was going to say, well, that's going to be a good question for you, Greg, as we go forward here about how you deal with all the kids that, and I guess go ahead and start to answer it for us right now, how it's certainly a dynamic change in the sport of bowling, particularly with the youngsters, but how do you as a coach deal with the kids that come in and say, I want to do that?
Well, one of the things I got to say off the bat is I'm not a big fan of the two-handed thing myself, but there are kids that it works very well for, and we do have a couple of them that are trying that right now, and the one thing that we work with them to do is to be consistent, because that's the whole nature of the sport, is you got to be consistent no matter what you do. So we've been working with some of them, and if that's what they want to try, we're behind them to get them to do the best they can.
It's very important that they do stay consistent with a two-hander, because you make a little mistake with that and you get some disastrous results if you're not careful with that shot.
How hard is it for you to coach it, because you've probably never done it before?
Never tried it, and I don't think I could do it now if I wanted to, but it's just a little bit difficult. But like I said, we just kind of watch what they're doing, and if we've got somebody trying to do it with two hands, then what we do is we try to do see what they're doing and how they're doing it, and just get them to be as consistent as they can with it.
All right, so tell us a little bit about Josh, because he's a Fredonia kid, Greg, and you work with him, and he's bowled here at the junior program. Tell us a little bit about his game as we watch him here in the third frame.
Josh is a great kid. He's come a long way from that. I mean, I've watched this kid grow up in the bowling lanes here. He's here practicing quite often. You can find him on a weeknight here bowling. And he really loves the game, and he's come a long way from pretty much just throwing a straight ball down the middle to being able to turn the ball a little bit now and get some hand into it.
17 years old, bowls as part of the Fredonia High School bowling team, also competes at a number of events here at Lucky Lanes, and certainly spends a lot of time working with Greg here. And again, you can you see a lot of the basics of being a good bowler there just in watching it.
Yeah, he's got a really nice smooth approach. He ends up at the line very nicely, and he's very consistent with it. And I give a lot of credit to his high school coach who works here at the Lanes, Tom Attaglia. He's works a lot with them, and our program has really gotten into the point where we've got a lot of good high school bowlers, and Josh is one of them.
Well, Brady Pullman is 15 years old. He is from Clarence Center. And if the name sounds familiar to you, he is the son of Jeff Pullman, who has been a regular here on Beat the Champ, and the nephew of Joe Pullman, who was our very first weekly winner, going back well over a year ago to the Rapids Bowling Center, and obviously part of a terrific Western New York bowling family, too, Sue.
Yeah, that's right. The whole family bowls. Grandma, the kids, the grandchildren. It's just a bowling family.
Well, and a question for you, Paul, as we watch the two-hander here, Brady Pullman, as we talked about with you on our first show a couple of weeks ago, you had a chance to go down to Australia and experience the bowling world down there. And as we talk about the two-handers and the impact of Jason Belmonte, what was it like to see it firsthand?
Oh yeah, it's quite, I don't say it was prevalent, but I saw quite a few. I watched a few junior squads down there when I was, because they're in the middle of their season when I was down there in our summer. And it's well accepted down there, obviously with the success that Jason's had in the PBA Tour. He's just dominated it, and so everybody wants to have that talent and try that out, because it's devastating if you can control it. It's really a tricky shot, but it's powerful if it's done well.
Right.
You can just rip the rack out and you carry pretty well with that. But again, you got to be careful, because if you throw the wrong way, you're going to leave some ugly spares and have a lot of open frames to go with it.
Jason's kind of the trailblazer on that, is he not?
Yeah, he is. He is. You didn't see it much at all, but now you see. At least I didn't notice it much before I saw Jason do it, and obviously that spurred on, probably tens of thousands of kids to try it, and people, not just kids. I mean, there's adults that do it as well.
Well, I'm sure the story, most bowlers know the story, but what is the story behind Jason deciding to go that route? I don't know if you're familiar with it or not, or whether that's, Sue, that's kind of not common knowledge in the bowling world. How did Jason Belmonte decide this is how I'm going to throw the ball?
Well, I know I was supposed to meet his parents, because the family I stayed with down there are very close with the Belmonte family. I did not get to meet them, but I've met Jason before, and they own 3 centers in Australia, his family. So I'm thinking as a young child he just started doing that, and they let him just do it, and he just developed that way of throwing the ball. And to his credit, he's done amazing things with it. But again, you just have to be careful with it.
This feels like a good time to take a short break. We'll be right back with more action on Beat the Champ. Welcome back to Beat the Champ. Let's get back to the action here on WBBZ-TV.
That makes this match pretty even with the 13 pins.
That's right. Don't forget, Brady is getting the 13-pin handicap advantage in this one. Obviously, as we said, Brady stays busy with bowling with the family, bowling on Saturday mornings, and probably bowling a few other times during the week. Another good strike, 3 in a row for Brady Pullman. If you're a member of the Pullman family, you're spending a little time at a bowling center in Western New York, aren't you?
We've got to know the Pullmans very well since Beat the Champ came on the air.
Yes, we have.
There's always a Pullman every month. In this case, not the one we're used to seeing, but there's still a Pullman.
That's right. Well, as I was joking with his dad, Jeff, I said, you may hear a little bit about it from Brady, depending on how well he does today. He might have a little bit of ammunition to throw back at Dad there, based on TV appearances.
Brady's only 15 years old, so Josh is 17, Brady's 15, so still got a few years to catch up.
And a good throw there by Josh. What are some of the things, Greg, that with a kid like Josh that you're trying to refine on his game right now? He's got the basics down. He's a good bowler. We can see that. He's got good form and everything. What are the little nuances that a good coach like you will work on with him?
Just some things like which ball to use today when he's out there on the lanes, the lane conditions, reading the lanes a little bit, knowing that there's been people, especially lefties, bowling today on those pair of lanes and over the last couple of weeks, and what he's got to do and which ball to use up there for somebody at his level right now.
Well, and again, Sue and I spend an awful lot of time talking about that on this show, that the difference in winning and losing between great bowlers is the right ball change, the right adjustment to make. So I would expect once the basics of the act are down, you've got to work with them on the mental stuff.
It gets to that point where there's, okay, you pretty much got everything else. Now we just got to learn a little bit more about the lanes, a little bit more about the types of balls and how they roll down the lanes and the rotation of his ball. And when he throws a bad shot, what did he do wrong? And why did he throw a bad shot?
And I have to say, Tyler Molino, who is our champion going into next week, is a really good example of someone who has their physical game down and has actually worked on and achieved a good mental game. Because you ask how you accomplish coming out here with the changing lane conditions, with the cameras, with the different opponents, and some left-handers, some right-handers, how you come in here and you succeed for 6 matches in a row. That's because you're strong. You're strong mentally.
Strong mentally, sure. That's a big part of the game. I can remember a guy telling me one time, he says, the difference between you and 180 and 200 is mental game. And that's certainly a big part of it when you get to this level.
Well, Tyler Molina might be put to shame here by a 5-in-a-row run of strikes that Brady Pullman's got on the board here.
Oh.
He's very Molina-like at the moment. Make it 6 in a row. What a strong finish here for Brady Pullman. It may not be too long before we see him on one of our first shows
well,
of the month.
He's 15, so we're gonna have to probably wait 3 years to see him at least.
And it's a little bit of what you've talked about. It took him a couple of frames to figure out the lane conditions and make the adjustment with a two-handed style, but he seems to have found the right place and the right groove. There you go.
Well, he's figured out that there's a high concentration of oil in the middle of the lane, so he just got himself up against that. And on lane 8, it's dry to the right. He hit that once and kept it out of there again, so he definitely had to figure it out and make adjustments.
So it's a 236 with the handicap included on the board for Brady Pullman. And Josh will not let him get away here as he keeps the pressure on.
Well, Josh can only go to 204, so we're going to see Brady in the next match.
All right, so there you go. It's been determined that Brady Pullman will move on here, and it didn't even need the handicap. It doesn't look like he's going to need the handicap at this point. So, so what a good match. What a great match to get things started here in our high school challenge.
Now I'm going to have to eat my words of saying I'm not a fan of the two-handed delivery because it works.
You're going to get letters from Australia that might normally,
I'm sure.
Some of the fan mail that Paul's getting from his buddies in Australia might be forwarded on to you.
Well, if you look at it, he puts his fingers in the ball, so he's really just no thumb. So.
And the other hand, he's actually holding on to it to the last second, and he's throwing it with one hand still, but he's just holding it. But it takes skill to do that. That's tough.
It's impressive.
And Brady did a great job with it.
So another one here for Josh to finish things out, but it's Brady Pullman that will advance. He'll bowl in our next match against Philip Narroway as we continue to head towards crowning a high school champion here. It's a 194 is the final score for Josh, so a 236 to 194 win for Brady Pullman. He'll advance. We'll talk to Josh about a very impressive performance here when we return. It's the High School Bowling Challenge here at Lucky Lanes in Fredonia, and you're watching Beat the Champ. Well, Josh, as we've seen over the last month here at Lucky Lanes, when you run into a hot bowler on the other side, it's kind of tough to overcome. And Brady got hot, but you bowled a nice match. Take me through how you felt.
I felt good. Went out there, bowled as best 10 shots I could, and stayed clean through those 10 shots. And he just got hot and found a way to come out in front.
Yeah, what's it like bowling on TV? Something you could get used to?
Yeah, definitely a change there, but yeah, something I could definitely get used to there.
All right, Paul. Well, I know you know Josh real well, and it's just fun for you to give
You
him.
bowled a great match. Congratulations. You should be real proud. Nice job.
Thank you.
All right, so Josh Ellman with a good performance here, but it's Brady Pullman that will move on, and we'll have our next match as part of the High School Bowling Challenge. It is coming up next from right here in Fredonia. Second match of the day, the competitor for Brady Pullman is that gentleman, Philip Narroway from nearby Forestville, New York. He will be the one to try to knock off Brady Pullman and set up a championship match as our top qualifier, Lucas Bond, awaits the winner of this match for our high school bowling championship here at Lucky Lanes in Fredonia. And not only is Philip from the area, but bowls here, he also works with you here. Is that correct, Mr. Nosek?
Yes, he does. He works the pizza counter and takes care of some other jobs for me as well. And he's, again, another great kid.
17 years old is Philip from, as we mentioned, Forestville, attends Forestville High School, and another one of the students of Greg Haas here, who runs the junior bowling program here at Lucky Lanes. Don't forget, keep up on all the news about Beat the Champ from @BeatTheChamp and hashtag #BeatTheChamp on Twitter, and like us on the Facebook page. We'll have all the information to get you ready for next month's stop in Amherst at Manor Lanes 2, and you can see all of that on the social media sites. So, Greg, as we get set to watch Brady bowl here, give us a little early scouting report on Philip.
Philip's another one of those that he started when he was very young. He's been in our program forever, it seems like. He's actually one of the hottest bowlers we have in the program right now. He's averaged about 225 over the last month. He played basketball on his high school team, and that's some of his bowling, but when he came back very hot. He's been bowling very well since then. Another smooth, nice, simple game, doesn't do too much with the ball. And he's one of those boys that he's in there practicing all the time. He loves the sport, loves to be here, loves to be around the lanes. He enjoys it.
That's fantastic. So as again, we're going to watch Brady Pullman here with his second throw in the first frame as a spare on the board from Philip Narroway in his first frame. And here's a look at Brady rocking that two-handed style so successfully in our first match, and a nice spare pickup there for Brady Pullman.
Do you do anything for these kids to practice to make it more economical for them to practice?
Actually, a lot of the kids that are in this get through into their high school, so they're bowling, God knows, 6, 9, 12 games a week in high school, plus your junior program, so that kind of expends them for the week.
So they don't do extra practice?
Some do. Some throw a few games a week, but they don't. They're already bowling like 4 or 5 days a week as it is.
I see.
How strong are the high school bowling programs in this area? Sounds to me like pretty strong based on some of the details we've already given out.
Yeah, I think, and it's gotten. I think it's gotten a lot stronger. I remember when I bowled high school way back when, we were the Fredonia team. We were the only, and there was just the boys. There was just a team. It wasn't boys and girls. Now they've gone to having girls teams, and that's opened it up a lot. So now you have potentially 8 teams. Well, Brockton doesn't have a girls team, but Dunkirk, Fredonia, and Forestville all do. And they've had a lot of success as well. I mean, the Fredonia and the Dunkirk girls both have traded championships back and forth for several years.
And this year, Dunkirk's girls were undefeated, and last year, Fredonia's girls were undefeated for the whole season.
Right.
Wow.
And that's a big testament to the gentleman over there, Mr. Haas, who without the program that he runs at the center, the high school programs would be nowhere near where they are.
They all bowl here, and we service, 5 high schools, I think.
Yeah.
So you're telling me we need to get back down here for the Fredonia versus Dunkirk girls bowling tournament matchups next year,
That's
huh?
always a good one. It's always a good one to watch. And boys and girls, they bowl here at the same time, so you get to watch the boys and the girls at the same time. And there's a lot of people here for that match.
So here's Philip in the second frame, cumulative average of 193 for Philip. And got good pin action there. And Philip is a 2-time Section 6 title holder in bowling. And, and Greg, you mentioned something interesting. You mentioned that Philip was tied up in the basketball season up until not that long ago. And obviously, by nature of the schools being a little smaller down here, I would assume that good athletes like Philip and some of the other ones that you that are in your bowling program are also busy playing other sports, maybe even more so because of the smaller school sizes down here in Chautauqua County than maybe up in the suburbs of Buffalo.
Oh, that's true. I mean, you pick a sport that they offer in the high schools around here, and we've got a bowler that's in that sport somewhere. And sometimes it's hard for them to juggle the sports around. But Philip actually bowled on his high school team and played basketball at the same time this season. Plus coming in here when he could for junior bowling.
Wow.
So they have to keep up their grades to be able to do that, but he was able to do that, so they allowed him to do the 2 sports.
And there's
Great
a nice
shot.
strike. First of the match for Philip Narroway. Strike, or spare, and strike on the first 3 frames for Philip, and we move back to Brady Pullman here from Clarence Center, 15 years old, a 178 overall average. High game of 258 in his young bowling career and a high series of 652. And and I hope everybody watching is kind of enjoying the contrast of styles. We've spent a lot of time talking about it in our first match, but it's interesting to me because they're just so dramatically different, Sue. And the two-handers versus the traditional style it's interesting to see when you're getting them on opposite lanes.
Well, I'm watching his break point and his targets on the lane is identical to what the guys were throwing in the regular matches. So even though he's two-handed, he's still looking to get to the same spot on the lane that the traditional bowlers were trying to get to. So it seems a little more complicated to get there, but he's still using the same target.
Now, you mentioned something interesting, and maybe when we see Brady bowl the next time, and there are two-handers that use their fingers in the holes, correct? And then there are two-handers that don't.
Well,
is that right?
I needed some clarification on that because that's a little bit of new technology for me. I'm not familiar at all really with two-handers.
You're old school. We get it.
So yeah. So
I mean that in a nice way.
I reached out during the break to Jack Jurek, and I consulted with him on that, and he said that they all use two fingers. They all put their fingers in the ball. So I wasn't aware of that.
We're going to be back with more Beat the Champ bowling action in just a minute. Welcome back to Beat the Champ. Let's get back to the action here on WBBZ-TV. That's 2 in a row now for Philip Narroway. Good couple of strikes here for him. Well, it's very interesting. It's interesting, it's interesting to watch. It's very interesting to start to analyze. I know Sue and I, you and I have spent a lot of time on this show talking about it because we see a two-hander once every couple of months, even at the highest levels of Buffalo bowling. And
we should have Jason Belmonte phone in and talk to us about it.
Yeah. Should have called in a couple of favorites. But it's interesting. I know we've had a couple of guys on the show. Chris Labiak is the one that jumps to mind, Sue. But
right.
Are you starting to see more two-handers at the higher levels of bowling here in Buffalo? Not really?
No, because those people are they're still aging into the game. Chris is still young, and he's one of the, he's actually one of the older ones, so he must be one of the first. And he did it because of an injury.
Yes.
Right. And then you've got Dana Vojtovich, who's very, very young. So those people haven't come out into the adult leagues for the most part yet.
10 years from now, you're going to see it
Right.
more prevalent, I'm sure.
When gentlemen like Brady start to move up to that age bracket then. Because in reality, how long Jason Belmonte's been on the scene, 6-7 years in general, right?
And he's been amazingly successful.
Yeah.
And honestly, it'll be interesting to see how long his career goes, because
Right.
you've got the I say old timers, but they're still tremendous bowlers at the top of their game, like
Right.
Pete Weber's and the Brian Vosses and those traditional names that we heard growing up.
you don't know.
They're still highly competitive on the senior
if
tour.
he can physically do that for how long?
Right, how long will it last? We're yet to see how long
Now,
he'll
why?
be able to
Explain
physically
to
do
people
that.
at home why that's going to be a question.
Well, you can see the strain that would have on your body.
Yeah, you're definitely moving your body slightly differently than a conventional bowler.
It's almost like Tiger Woods. He torques his back
That's exactly
so
what I was
much,
thinking.
so much when he hits a ball. He's torn his back up now.
Well, and his career may very well essentially be done being at the level that he has been at, and probably for, at least in my opinion, 2 reasons. He's been playing golf since he's about 3 years old, so he's had a longer year career. But like you said, Paul, that he puts so much strain on muscles in his body. He's had knee surgeries, he's had back problems, which again is a product of being so different in the way you approach the game. Very interesting. Yeah, you know, Sue, if you and I are still around doing this show like 10 years from now, we'll be able to talk a little better about all this stuff,
so that,
right?
you know, that story is yet to play out. I think is how long they can actually keep up doing that.
Greg, are there times when kids come to you and say, "Should I do it this way?" What kind of advice are you giving kids? Are you discouraging it? Are you trying to explain to them what they're getting into with it?
You know, I got to tell you that I don't usually get the questions from the kids; it's from the parents. They're like, "My child is throwing 2 hands. What do you think? Should they do that or shouldn't they?" And we've had one parent who came to me and says, "I just don't want them doing that." And this is the father. And the father's a pretty good bowler in his own right. And I says, "Well, you know, you almost got to let them learn from themselves. And okay, you want to try it this way? We'll try to make you the best bowler we can doing it this way. But when you're ready to go back to one hand, we'll help you with that too."
Here's Brady Pullman in the 10th frame, and that's a couple of strikes in a row. Meanwhile, as you've been watching, Philip Narroway has 4 strikes in a row. So this has really turned out to be a fantastic match. Second ball of the 10th frame here for Brady Pullman. Can he come up with another victory and advance to our championship match? A couple of pins left standing there.
Yeah, that was an important one for him to get. He was going to need that to put the pressure on Philip to have to perform in the 10th frame. But this means Philip will be moving on.
So an impressive back half of the match run by Philip Narroway of, at the moment, 4 consecutive strikes. Matter of fact, 6 of the last 7 strikes for Philip. Going to advance him to our championship match. Good spare pick up there for Brady Pullman, who makes a nice run here on our high school bowling challenge. It's a 211 with the handicap. No, I'm sorry. It's a 236 is the final score for Brady Pullman. No,
I'm sorry,
I'm reading your writing and I'm getting it wrong.
224. So you gotta have 13 on
224
that.
with, right, 224 with the handicap.
I think it's important to say that he shot 223 and 211 scratch when he's got a 176 average on television.
That's outstanding.
That's amazing.
And meanwhile, the run of strikes continues for Philip Narroway.
I do have to say, I'm very impressed with Brady and the way he throws the ball. I mean, he's balanced at the line every shot, even because I know me trying to throw that thing with 2 hands, I'd be falling all over the place.
And that's what it takes to be able to be successful at that. You have to be consistent and keep your shots controlled.
Right. Have both of you guys actually tried to do it just for the heck of it, throwing a few?
I haven't tried in a long time.
I do it once in a while just to see how I can do it, but I would never trust.
Does it feel completely unnatural?
No, because I used to do it as a kid.
Well, that's right, you mentioned
But I never did it with another hand on top. I always just did it just for kicks and make the ball hook a ton. But I don't know if I'd ever try it competitively.
And the strike run comes to an end for Philip Narroway, but that does not make it any less impressive, and a terrific performance, and he'll get one more to post up the final score. So Philip Narroway will take on Lucas Bond in our high school bowlers championship match coming up in just a moment here as we finish out our month-long stay at Lucky Lanes in Fredonia. And the spare pickup is successful for Philip Narroway. A nice round of applause, good shake of the hand for Brady Pullman. 247 to 224 is our final score. So Philip will advance on to the championship match. We'll talk to Brady about an outstanding performance for him and get you ready for our final match. When we return, it is Beat the Champ at Lucky Lanes in Fredonia. We are back after this. Well, it was an impressive performance here on our high school bowling challenge by Brady Pullman. And Brady, we talked an awful lot about your two-handed style. What made you decide to go that route, particularly when you come from a bowling family where they probably wonder what you were thinking when you made that decision?
Well, I hurt my thumb, and so it started to hurt when I was bowling one-handed. So I transitioned to two-handed, and it was a lot of fun, and it was difficult at first, but then I got the hang of it.
You starting to feel comfortable with it? You starting to feel like that's what's going to take you to whatever level you want to be at in the sport of bowling?
Yeah.
How did this go? Bowling on TV, bowling in a competitive atmosphere like this?
It was less nerve-wracking than I thought it was going to be, but Phil bowled good, and the open in the 8th frame didn't help me, but I bowled a good game.
Right, and you got some bragging rights against Dad if you need him as well, too. Yeah, he knows it. He's already been thinking about that. Paul, give him that trophy, will you?
Congratulations and nice run out there.
So a good performance for Brady Pullman, but we've got our championship match coming up. Stick around. That is next on Beat the Champ from here at Lucky Lanes in Fredonia. Welcome back to Beat the Champ. Let's get back to the action here on WBBZ-TV. All right, here we go. It's our championship match. You saw a brief shot of Lucas Bond from Wales Center in the red against Philip Narroway from Forestville in the blue. The winner will claim the trophy of the high school bowling champion here at Lucky Lanes in Fredonia. And based on what we've seen so far with Josh Ellman, Brady Pullman, and Philip, the bowling has been outstanding. So these guys are terrific, and pencil them in a couple of years for being part of the regular Beat the Champ show.
No, and it's nice to see that there's still a good future for bowling, because I still see a lot of young people. I get letters from young people. I get young people talk to me. There's still quite an interest in bowling, and it's nice.
I think that's what drives Greg and I both to do this with so much of the junior program is the response you get, and knowing it continues the kids on to adults and in tournaments and just competitive bowling along.
Not much of a handicap advantage in this one. Lucas Bond, who we see for the first time here, is getting 1 pin in this match with Philip Narroway. So, you know, not to say that it couldn't factor in, it not most likely won't. So here we get a look at Lucas Bond, as I mentioned, 16 years old, a student from Wales Center, New York. And interestingly enough, this is not Lucas's first appearance on Beat the Champ.
Nope, we have a return engagement from Lucas.
Yeah, he was part of our Father's Day Dad and Son Championship Challenge back in June of last summer at the Tonawanda Bowling Center. So he and his dad had a chance to bowl together on that show, which was fantastic. So Lucas is the Beat the Champ veteran at the moment on this edition of our show. And a good spare pickup for him here in the first frame. So Lucas bowls on the Iroquois High School bowling team, which was a Section 6 Class B champion this past year, and Lucas himself was the Iroquois 2017 Team MVP. So another one of those outstanding young bowlers here in Western New York. And it's funny, you think about it, and there's a little bit of a misstep for Lucas that he'll have to shake off. As you know, we haven't been around long enough on this version of Beat the Champ, but you feel like if we'd been doing this show for 5 years and we can talk so much about Tyler Molina, we might have had Tyler Molina on one of these high school or college championships not long ago. So maybe if the pattern holds, we're going to get Philip and Lucas and Josh and Brady on a couple shows a few years from now down the road going, I remember that guy. There's a terrific one by Lucas.
Excellent recovery.
So it's a rather unusual 10-pin spare that time, but 10 pins nonetheless for Lucas Bond. So.
Well, sometimes that spare can be easier than a lot of other ones.
That's no question there.
But we have seen a few unusual things here in our month-long stay at Lucky Lanes in Fredonia. We've seen some unusual throws. We saw incredible slip from Matt Zazowski. That was a huge part of that match against Molina. We saw the incredible Tyler Molina run. We've seen some crazy open frames. We saw Pete Maduri 3 weeks ago on our first show with an incredible split pickup. I mean, we've seen, I don't know what you're doing down here, Nosek, but you've sure given us a year's worth of material to talk about.
That's all in the plan.
Yeah, I mean, that's just the stuff off the top of my head from our month-long stay here in Fredonia. Speaking of split pickups, a little baby split challenge here for Philip Narroway.
I got in too much.
And he'll at least get one of those. All right, so I messed that up, Sue. Why did I mess that up?
Well, baby split will only have one pin that fits in between the two of the pins. So if it's wider than only one pin between the two,
all
then
right.
it would
See,
be
I
baby.
thought anything inside of a 7 and 10 is considered a baby split, so I'm wrong about that, huh?
Just a little.
Well, what's
just
that called? Because I know you crazy bowlers have names for everything.
No,
Greg, help me out here.
I can't.
Well,
I'm not sure.
There are names for it, but we can't mention them on air.
Oh, I see. I gotcha. All right, feel free to Google that, you bowling fans.
Baby split, you got to be able to pick the ball, spare with the ball.
With the ball.
So hit both pins or more with the ball.
So one ball can pick up both pins. That's a baby split.
Right.
Okay. So there is a name for something inside of a 7-10. You just aren't allowed by FCC rules.
No,
to
it just
say
means that the bowler's going to swear when they leave it.
Oh, I see how that works.
Yes.
I kind of walked into that one, didn't I? All right, normally I study up my bowling lingo because I know you challenge me on a weekly basis, and maybe I've gotten a little lazy here a year and a half into the show. I need to, before Manor 2 next week, I will go back and study up my lingo. Because I like to come up with ones that I can throw at you and have ready, because there's incredibly stuff that you haven't even heard of every once in a while.
Oh, sure.
Well, and I've joked with Sue, the crazy thing about bowling is no matter where you go, they have a different name for everything.
Yeah.
So stuff that you call it down here in Fredonia is not what they call it in Lockport, but when people in Fredonia and Lockport are watching, they're saying, Peck doesn't know what he's talking about, which is not uncommon for people to say anyway, but it makes it hard to know what to say at the right time.
Let me tell you, you've come a long way from your early shows. You really have. Your knowledge has gotten way better.
I appreciate that. But yes, it does make it a little confusing to try to get the lingo right here when there's 14 different names for everything.
In our program, I mean, we often try to teach them the language of bowling too, but there are some things we just can't teach them because they're too young. But
Well, and if you want to do some studying,
That's
if you want to do some studying with me on the PBA Tour website, they have a bowling lingo glossary page, which is outstanding, and it probably has 200 phrases on there. So if you want to do your own play-by-play at home and get your lingo right, go for it. Feel free to Facebook message anything good that you come up with too.
Well, one that I remember, as all of us around know, strike on the opposite side for a right-hander is always known as a Brooklyn, but is also known as Jersey
It's
side.
a Jersey.
That's not something I've ever, but I've heard that.
Well, I'm actually from New Jersey, so that would be appropriate for me. Wouldn't it?
Well, New Yorkers call it Jersey.
Yeah, it's a Jersey side.
Because it's on the opposite side. Anybody in New York across the river is the opposite side as Jersey. The action will continue on Beat the Champ in just a minute. Welcome back to Beat the Champ. So that'll certainly be the highlight and the build-up and the setup for our first match in next week's show. So make sure you're watching because, like we said, amongst the many, many great bowlers in Western New York, almost all of them that we've had a chance to see on the show, right now Tyler is on the brink of putting himself at the top of the list.
Sure. And well-deserved. And he brings a little other element to the table because, like you said, we've seen a lot of people win a lot of matches, but they've also made a lot of shows where, at little different bowling centers, but we've seen him be hard to beat once he's out there.
Good spare pick up there for Philip Narroway in the 8th frame. So this match still pretty tight at the moment.
Well, Lucas will have to strike out for a 189. So when once Phil gets past the 189 point, then you're right, he still has a little work to do for sure.
Yeah, tried to get a little body language in there.
He thought that was going to take off on him.
He
He's
did,
pointing
and
over to the left. He thought it was going to cross over for a Brooklyn. And it just stayed there in the oil.
And when they hold like that for you, you just take them.
Yeah.
When you think it's bad
You
coming
think
off
it's
your
bad,
hands,
yeah.
and it turns out okay.
Yeah, you're like, thank you very much. Just move on.
And another good spare pickup for Phillip.
He's gotten very good at his 10 pins. He just flattens it out, throws it flat, doesn't try and hook it. Just, all you got to do is knock on that one pin. Nothing fancy.
I like to say it's the pin we shoot the most when we're right-handers, and yet it still can be quite a challenge because once you miss it, you start missing it, right? You try to overcompensate.
It gets into your head then,
it does. Unfortunately, that one got into the dry.
That one did.
So Lucas will have a little work to do to finish off the spare here in this 9th frame. And a good job grabbing that
Tough
spare.
spare. That's a good spare right there.
Well, gentlemen, we thank you for joining us. Greg, particularly for you on this show, Paul, for the whole run of another wonderful stay here down at Lucky Lanes in Fredonia. And Greg, keep up the good work in working with the junior bowling programs here. And we obviously have seen you've developed some terrific bowlers and a nice history of youth bowling down in this area. And we know you play a role in that as well, too. So.
Well, I play a role in it, and I've got a role in it, but there's a lot of other help. I mean, I've got a good coaching staff. We've got about 20 coaches here that are very dedicated to this program. Most of them, or many of them, don't even have kids in the program anymore, but they still come here on a Saturday and help out, put their time in. And I can't thank them, and I can't thank the NoSex enough for all the help we get with our program.
Right. Well, and again, and Paul, for all the support that you give to the young bowlers in the area here too, that you deserve a pat on the back for that as well too.
Well, thank you. It's well worth it. We have a lot.
Lucas Bond looking to finish up strong here, and another good performance. And again, the one thing that jumps out at you, Sue, is the future is bright. If the future is some of the guys that we've seen here bowling.
Sure, absolutely. It's nice to see the competition at this level.
Right. And here's the final throw from Lucas Bond, and a good
really well.
three-strike 10th frame for Lucas Bond. Impressive way to finish it up with a 169. Well, you've got great plants to tend to, and you've probably got a little relaxing on the lake here coming up in the summer, Paul, but hopefully we get a chance to see you more than next April when we're back down here again.
Hopefully we will, yes.
But thanks for being a great host as well, and and I think based on what Tyler Molina did here, Lucky Lane's got a little special place in Beat the Champ lore. So keep up the good work.
It's a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Right. So Phillip Narroway on his way to claiming the victory here in our high school bowling championship. You'll throw a couple of more to post up the final scores. You get a look at the Castellone Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram scoreboard. And it is a good performance as Phillip wins 2 matches in a row and claims the title. And Paul's going to give him a nice big trophy here in just a moment as well, too. And one more to come from here. So when we return, we will give out some hardware to both Lucas and Phillip. We'll wrap up this match, and then Sue and I will get you ready for next week. As we mentioned, figures to be one of the more anticipated and exciting Beat the Champ matches from next week at Manor Lanes 2. And the final score is on the board. A good hug and shake of the hands. Congratulations there. 193 to 170 is our final score. 193 to 170. Phillip Narroway is our winner. We'll talk to Phil and we'll talk to Lucas when we return. It is Beat the Champs High School Bowling Challenge from here at Lucky Lanes in Fredonia.
Good job, Phil.
Well, Philip narrowly wins our high school bowling championship here at Lucky Lanes in Fredonia. Lucas Bond, you put up a nice challenge. How much did you enjoy being out there?
I loved being out here. It was really fun. I really was glad to be out here. And for Philip, congratulations to him because he bowled strong this game. I struggled a little bit early, and he picked up right from there and was solid through.
All right, well, it's your second appearance here on Beat the Champ, and this time you get to walk away with a little hardware.
Second place, nothing to be ashamed of. Nice bowling. You just had an unfortunate break there, but congratulations.
Thank
nice
you.
bowling.
Sue?
Congratulations on your great bowling. Did it seem another day at the office out there?
Yeah, I tried to stay calm and keep it like another day, like another Saturday league or another bowling match. Try to stay as calm as possible.
Do you think you're getting up for promotion now here at the bowling center now that you've bowled so well?
Maybe, I don't know.
All right, we'll have to talk about that.
Right.
But anyways, great bowling today, and congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Fine job.
Thank you.
Nice
What
bowling
are you trying to get him promoted from pizza to chicken wings? Is that what you're trying to do over there? So maybe Nosuk will give him the day off after a nice
That's right.
performance
So for a
like
day
that.
off.
So Philip, congratulations. Lucas as well too, along with Brady and Jason. Everybody did a great job here. Sue and I will wrap up our stay in Fredonia and preview next week's match when we return. You're watching Beat the Champ at Lucky Lanes in Fredonia. Well, based on the bowling that we saw, not just today, but for the last 3 weeks, I don't know if we want to leave Fredonia.
No, Tyler Molina doesn't, I'll tell you that.
He certainly doesn't, but Tyler's going to have to because he will be a part of next week's show at Manor Lanes 2. We still don't know who he's going to be bowling against. That qualifying is still to happen later today.
Right, so on Sunday you can still go out. There's plenty of squads to bowl. There's still the finals to make. Remember, ladies, there's a guaranteed spot for you, so make sure you go out and qualify.
And remember, Tyler Molina, 6 in a row, trying for 7 in a row, trying for a 13th overall win. So it's going to be a great show next week up in Amherst. The crowds were outstanding here in Fredonia. The guys up in Amherst can only hope to match the fervent fan base
We
here.
need to bring this Southtown energy up to the North Towns. Let's do it, guys.
Load them up, pop them in a bus, and get them on up there. So it was a great stay here at Fredonia, as it always is for us. The bowling was outstanding, and it might even be better with the amount of bowlers and the kind of bowlers we'll have for you next week. We thank you for watching this week's edition of Beat the Champ. We'll see you next week from Amherst.